Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff Mom Never Told You, production of iHeartRadio. And welcome to another edition of Happy Hour. As always, if you choose to drink or whatever you choose to do, please do so responsibly. Are you sipping on anything, Samantha?
So I discovered, I had the complaint about the fact that my bubble water that I would do from home, I no longer have the pineapple. I found it in the can version. So I bought me an 8-pack. And so I'm sipping on one of those. And I'm quite happy. What about, just keeping that chill without the alcohol?
I'm drinking my final beer. My final Dragon Con beer. It was the last one left over.
End of an era. /2024.
The end of Yeah. So this episode is a bit of a grab bag, and it does have to do with the fact that Samantha and I, we've just been rushing about.
It's true.
We've been going. I feel like I've been going since the end of June. I feel like I have been going. And you are about to leave for your birthday trip, of which I am hitchhiking my wagon to part of when we go to Seattle. Which, by the way, again, listeners, if you have any suggestions for things we should do or eat or whatever while we're in Seattle, let us know. We'll be there at the end of September. Oh, also, we're doing our Sex and the City listener join us watch party. So enter that soon. If you want to do it. We've already got a list of names, but if you would like to be considered, we are doing it soon-ish. So, yes. But, yeah, we're kind of in a rush to get a bunch of stuff done before we go. And I just have noticed I have been a bit of a ball of emotions, Samantha, in a way I'm not normally. I get emotional about things. I can feel like very strong emotions, but I don't normally feel the things I'm feeling right now. And one of them is jealousy.
Oh.
I'm experiencing a lot of jealousy. I'm normally not a very jealous person, but the jealousy I'm feeling is that I feel that I don't understand how people in my life have time to have fun anymore. I don't understand how people have time to take care of themselves anymore. I'm jealous that they do. And I know if you're listening to this, you're like, this sounds really hypocritical because you basically just said you're going on a vacation. But I feel like I've been going on vacations that we have to work really hard to cover.
Yeah.
So there's a stress around them. I'm talking about like every day. Or just like every other day. I don't know. But like just having fun or choosing to do something for yourself on a normal day, on a non-vacation day. And I have been experiencing some jealousy, Samantha. I'm not proud of it. Because I want to be supportive and be like, I'm very happy for you.
Yeah.
People text me what they're doing, and I'm like, oh no, I'm mad. I'm being a horrible friend because I want to feel that. I used to be good at it, and I'm really good at time management. I'm really good at time management.
You're very good with that.
But I think that the issue is I'm really good with it for work. I'm really good with it. Like I've said before, I've made my hobbies into work. So even like things that might seem fun, I've turned them into work. But I mean, I'm really good at the time management part. But also I get so tired now because I've been working so much because I have all these things that are fun things that I'm doing. Please don't get me wrong. I'm very, very privileged and lucky to have this conversation. But by the time I could do something, I can't do it. I'm too tired to do it. And so I usually just kind of stare blankly at my screen and I'm like, oh, this is so sad. Yeah. It's a question of priorities as well. I've talked about this before. I'm really bad at because a lot of the people I'm talking about, which if you're listening, I am really happy for you. It's not, it's more of a me problem. It's not a you problem.
Yeah.
But, making that time, like prioritizing that time to say, hey, I need this. I'll work better if I do this. I'll enjoy life better if I do this. But I thought I was good at it for a minute during the pandemic, and I had just really, really fallen off of it. I don't know. But I have experienced a lot of jealousy. I've experienced some anger. I'm just like mad. People out there having a good old time.
I think it's interesting because I do wonder, because I often think about when hobbies happen and people having interests, because you have so many interests. And yes, we have parlayed a lot of that interest into our podcast, because having a new episode 5 days a week is 300, like every day of the year with no breaks is difficult. Even with the two of us on here, we've been together. You've been doing this way longer than I have. And then we've been together for at least 5 years. Oh, yeah. I keep forgetting this. I keep forgetting that it's been 5 years. But having that much content means we have to do things that allow us to have our joy. So, because everything for us is constantly work. So, yeah, we talk about, yes, it's a privilege, but it does feel like an overstepping of sharing too much. Sometimes it feels like we're doing that, but this is the only way that we can still do what we like and share it. But I also have, for me, like, I'm very jealous of you having interests in hobbies, because for me, I feel like a psychopath when I'm like, yeah, I don't do things. I don't care about things. I don't like those things. Like, I never, and I thought about this earlier, because I, as a child, would make up things in order to pretend like I was normal, that had a like for something. And it helped my mother out in being able to be like, kind of placing a label on me, be like, okay, I can get her this now. Like, because she collects these, or she likes these things, or such, all these things. And even like when I'm picking out what's your favorite color, what's all these, I don't really think I have them. I have things that I enjoy for the moment that I like from afar that are pleasing, but I wouldn't think there's favorites. Same thing as like, again, I talked about the birthday thing of like, oh, I don't want to be celebrated, but also if you ignore me, I'm going to be sad. If you forget, I'm going to be sad. I don't need presents, and I don't really want presents because it's probably going to just take up space. But at the same time, if you didn't do that for me, I would also get my feelings hurt. Like this double whammy of things. All of those things, I'm like, but this is supposed to be normal. So I have to play into this. So for the same thing of like watching you like actually caring about Star Wars, which makes it easier for me to like help give you gifts. But you do a great job at giving me gifts, because I'm like, for a person who has no interest, you sure to do well in finding things like she probably like this, she'll like this, as well as the fact like, you have things that you love so well that it's associated with you, and people find commonality with you like that. I'm like, man, I'm not relatable. But it is like in that level of like, I am, but I'm not. And I feel like it's almost like a put on. But all these things culminate into like that other person, because they are doing something that is outside of you, feels like they have more whatever, whether it's more friends, more popularity, more interest, more engagement, all those things, which I see of you, that I get jealous of that too. But again, it is that level of like, because you're different from me this way, or how I see it, or how I feel it, or how I'm even communicating it.
Yeah. And that's interesting to get that viewpoint, because I feel for me, a lot of what's happening right now is that I can't be the level of fan I want to be. I can't do that. I can't do it. And I'm watching other people do it. And that makes me feel bad about myself, to be honest, because I'm like, I should just be happy that you are enjoying something I like. But instead I'm mad that you have time to do it.
Right.
And I do not.
Right.
And this is something like, I've talked about this before, but I don't want to get too deep into this. I don't think we should read too deeply into this. But my dad was really controlling about like the things that you liked. Like he was very, you have to like it and be up and show that you like it, or you have to like not like it and show. But anyway, so it was always kind of a performance of liking something around
right.
him. And so I am so in my head about I don't want to do that. I just don't want to be that. And so I'm like, I think I'm like backing off too hard, where I'm like not, I feel like I can't engage at all, even if I like, we can have healthy disagreements, or we can be like, I can tell you I'm jealous of you.
Right.
But I feel so hard that I don't want to make someone feel guilty or control. Or control is strong. I felt like my dad was really controlling, but I don't think my friends would be easily controlled by me. But like that idea of like trying to make you fit into, this is how you enjoy it, only on my terms or else. So I've been like really in my head about that. And then I'm like, yeah, why can't you just be happy? You know?
Right.
It does suck, but
I don't know if I've genuinely met anyone that can just be happy. And I say this in that I think you genuinely love that person and are happy for them, but also there's a piece of you that feels like you're either missing out on something, or there's a piece of you that's judging, like, but I wouldn't do it this way, or there's a piece of you that's like, but do you really have time for this? Like, again, that's that judgment level. And I'm not saying that maybe I'm just a really bad friend in that, but like there's always a piece of you that's internalizing, because you are you and you're inside your own head. And no matter what, you will not be able to, you can't separate your self-interest or your interests in general from anything. Like it's just, you think of, this is why you relate to certain books. This is why you relate to certain characters. This is why you relate to certain fandoms, because you're putting in your perspective of how do I relate to this, and this is how things happen. And it's also the same way of like how you choose friends. Like there is a bit of which you should have self-interest in that, not that it's all about you, but that you two together are good together. Like you're not giving too much or you're not taking too much. Like that should be both things. But I think it's I don't know, even for those who are really well adjusted, and maybe some of the people are just like more of the curiosity of the, so you're doing this. That's interesting. And there isn't any judgment or that, but more of like again, that is in your mind, it's like, I wonder how it would be for me, or that's not something I would do for myself, or well, I wonder what that looks like for, like this. Again, you just can't help but relate to it in what you have something in common or not in common. And again, that's related to you and your experience. And I find that really, really interesting in itself. I love when people do things. Like, I think the same thing, like when you and Lauren get more opportunities to travel or stuff like that, I get jealous, but I don't want to do it. That, again, part of that to that. But at the same time, it feels like it's a judgment on me, kind of like how you're holding back so that you don't get judged. Or you don't come off of something as like something that's been nagging at the back of your head because your father's voice is there to not be this person or not be like him, whatever, whatnot. Both of those things are there. And I think it's hard not to, even for those who are doing the things. Like my it's not a motto, but my thought frame was, I would rather be the one that changes instead of being around everybody else that's changing. So like, meaning I would rather be the one that leaves. I would rather be the one that's, not a part of this, and not people leave me or in those like situations. I've had that, like people would move away and it just crushed me. Yeah. But if I move away, as much as it crushed me, it would at least put me in a whole new scenario instead of feeling like I'm missing out on something or missing something. So that's that same kind of level too, I think, in both of those things. But again, like, even if you don't want to do it at all, there's that relief, like, oh, thank God it's not me, There's this
Yeah.
variation of like people are human with a hard time in seeing different perspectives outside of their own. I don't even know if it's possible, even with empathy.
It's true. I mean, I also think a part of this problem for me is that, well, it's two-part. I talked to some of my friends about this because I've mentioned this. I was going to talk about it. I probably should come back and do a much bigger thing about it. But I mentioned it in our Dragon Con wrap-up episode, and I mentioned it in some previous happy hour about kind of like friend groups and fandoms and stuff like that. But one thing that I have encountered, because a lot of the stuff I'm mad that I'm missing out on is fandom stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's fan fiction or video games or whatever it is. The one thing I've learned is, which I should have known because you have made it clear several times, like people don't experience it the same way I do, as in people don't have the same, my level is here, their level might not be anywhere close to there. But to me, I'm like, well, you're doing like, oh. But then the second part is, and I really do think we should come back and talk about this because I had another conversation with a friend of mine. You know, this has been bothering me for a while, but a lot of stuff I like for me, and I'm going to say very specifically, I try to keep this to myself, but there is morality involved. And, you know, part of like the attraction that I experience as like an asexual person, I don't experience it in terms of, unless I think the fictional character is a good person, I don't think you're attractive, which is not the case for everybody. But that means like there has been some very strange where we just are not connecting. And for me, it feels like a moral issue. And I know that that can feel really to the other person involved, who I think on their point of view sees me as like way too rigid. But it is been interesting for me to, I mentioned I had to do like a lot of fandom soul searching because I was like, I need to really recalibrate in terms of, I knew people don't experience it the same way. Mm-hmm. No one does. But I also had to like continually take into account, like, yeah, I'm still learning about as an ace person, how I view things and how that fits into fandom stuff, oddly enough.
Right.
And then my like dad stuff of like, well, I don't want to be too controlling. So it's just kind of it feels like it's holding me back from really expressing myself because I don't want to. Mm-hmm. I want people to like what they like, and I don't want to ruin that. But I also want to talk about how I feel. This is a very self-indulgent episode. Please know that. I realize it. I want to find a fandom therapist. I want to find someone who I could talk to about the fandoms in question, who knows what I'm talking about, who is a therapist that I would pay, or I could let loose on some thoughts.
You know, I bet they would make a huge client list at going to different cons. If there was someone who specialized in that, either that or they would just get yelled at a lot, one of the two. Don't tell me to be healthy about my fandom relationships. But one of the two things would happen. But like, that's such a niche. But really, like, yeah, that's amazing. I wonder if there's such a thing. How do you look for this?
I looked up some fandom support groups.
Okay.
But I feel like I just need, because again, it's a combination of the things I've been talking about. I'm too intense. Like, I feel like the people, and I disagree with a lot of the people I'm talking about. And so I'm too intense and I disagree. I don't want to ruin the thing they like, or I don't want to make them feel bad about the thing they like, it's just, so I need somebody who could like, just let it out and knows what I'm talking about. Yeah. And then I think I would feel a lot better.
That would be funny. If y'all know of any of those specialists, that'd be amazing. I'm sure we have some therapists like on hand in our listenership that'd be like, I got you.
Well, the funny thing is, like, I do have friends I do talk to that I feel like I'm on the same page with, but I still feel like I have to hold back, even with them. I need somebody I can really like, and by holding back, I just mean I have a lot of thoughts. I would not be yelling or shouting at anyone, I promise. But just like,
Yeah, I guess I've never experienced impassioned, somewhat drunk Anney talking about a fandom where you know what's happening because she goes, oh, and then lots of hands.
Yeah. Yes.
That happens when she's talking about something with a theory.
Yes.
That she has been thinking about for a while and probably has already written an essay or two about.
Yes.
Yeah.
My essays aren't cutting it for me anymore.
No. You need a different outlet. And maybe we need to call the dude at Patreon because I think that's my needs just to happen now. That's our extra episodes.
And he like goes to a phantom therapist. Oh my gosh. It would be fine. It would be like, I feel like I'm making it sound way more intense than I am. But that was just another thing, like going back to how my dad was. If he didn't agree with what I was saying, you were shut down. So I just feel like I need some space where I feel safe to like really feel these feelings.
And I wonder too, part of this is because of that level of ridicule you got from your dad, because that really does weigh heavily in your adolescence, that look and the being like pushed aside and shut down in any general ways. That it's more in your head about the fact that you feel like you can't do this more so than people will be like, because a lot of the times when I'm watching you interact, and I know, I want to say you and my partner go after it. Like it just goes. It's quite funny because I'm like, all right, y'all do your thing. I'm gonna go to bed because it goes into a tailspin of things that I have no idea what's happening. I have woken up 3 hours later to them still talking about this, and I'm sure they've gotten on to repeat to be like they've talked about this for the third time around and they're making the same conclusions, but also whatever has been playing is now on its third replay, whether it's like, if it's like a YouTube video, it's definitely on the 50th replay. If it's a movie, it's on its third replay, but stuff like that. And I know my partner loves it as much as you do. Y'all just don't get it. And I've seen other people who engage with you love it. Love seeing animated Anney. There are friends of yours, I know, and ours that will want to argue with you, which is the opposite of what you want. But those who are truly being enlightened, like I can think of one of our old producers who are not working with us anymore. But I just remember when you went, oh, I don't think you want to know. And they were like, no, I don't. I want to know. And him being really engaged. But you started off with, oh no, that's too much right now. And they're like, no. And then you went into it and I walked away and came back and you were still into it. And he was inside of your mouth listening to whatever was happening. So I feel like it's not, again, this is more, maybe a little more of like my witnessing of you being like, I think it's more of trauma talking.
Yeah.
Like bad conditioning than it is what you think it is. And that no one will listen or no one will want to do this with you. When actually there is.
I think you're right. I think it's also like, it can be hard when you're like, I need to engage on this very specific point and no one knows that specific point. And so it's, again, like people are at a different level than me. So sometimes it feels like I can't even, the thing I need to talk about is here.
And that's fair. That's fair.
I'm making a lot of hand gestures.
Lots of hand gestures here.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how this fandom therapist thing goes. But yeah, I mean, it also, since we're going on a trip, I did recently see, because we were talking about our next conference, what we would talk about. And we did talk about like maybe doing something around boundaries or like sharing too much. I did recently see a newish podcast where they were talking about how stressful and weird it was to like share yourself and to how it felt strange after you came back from vacation to do all this stuff. And I felt validated. I was like, okay. Yeah. It's not just us. Yep. Okay.
Not just us.
No. Nope. Well, thank you all for listening to this very self-indulgent rant. No. If you have any thoughts about it, please let us know. You can email us at stephanieandmomstuff@iheartmedia.com. You can find us on Twitter at momstuffpodcast or on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff I'll Never Told You. We're also on YouTube. We have a TeePublic store and we have a book you can get wherever you get your books. Thanks as always to our super producer, Christina, our executive producer, Maya, and our contributor, Joey.
Thank you. And reminder, if you want to be a part of the Sex and the City watch through,
yes,
go to those things that Anney mentioned before and let us know.
Yes, please let us know. And thanks to you for listening. Stuff I Never Told You is a production by iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.